Hi cozy friends, and welcome back to Morgan Unraveled. My name is Morgan and this is the Unraveled podcast where I unravel my mind one stitch at a time and share my making journey along with you. In this episode, I'm going to talk about all the things I've been knitting, but I only have one finished object. You'll have to forgive me. I do have an infant, both in that's why I have less knitting and also in that there might be little sounds here and there throughout this episode, but I do have my mic on. Hopefully I can minimize the noise. But she loves to be held and that is very much okay. For starters, what I am wearing is my Poet Tee by Sari Nordlund, knit in Flinders 8-ply in the color Avocado, which I got from Spotlight in Australia. I finished knitting this exactly 1 year ago this month, and I was making it while my in-laws were visiting us there in Australia. And we are now back and I am finally wearing it. I obviously can't stand up right now to show you, but I will show you some footage that I did bind off this shirt way too early. I really need to get this back on some lifeline and add in some length, but I'm so scared of doing that with lace. This was my biggest lace undertaking and I think it was definitely my first lace garment besides the Salty Days sweater, which has just one section of lace. And it was quite an undertaking, but I was so hyperfixated on it that I finished it in, like I said, only a month. I think it was a couple weeks actually, but I really enjoyed the making process. I was just tired of working the body round and round, and it says to finish at either a full chart repeat or a half chart repeat. So when I was at this point, I was like, maybe I could finish it here. I don't want to do a whole other chart repeat, but I definitely should have so that it would be a comfortable length. I find the length it currently is at is perfect for throwing on over an undershirt or with really high-waisted pants. And I also could wear it with a dress, but I don't really have a dress that this would match. So maybe I need to shop for something like that would suit this garment and make it more wearable for me. But I love this color so much. I think it flatters me very well and I want to wear it so much more. So I really should bring some pieces into my wardrobe that would help me get more wear out of it. I am still figuring out how to dress my current postpartum body because I'm so used to wearing high-waisted everything, but even high-waisted things but even my high-waisted pants don't sit comfortably on my belly right now. And I'm a firm believer that our clothes should fit our body, not our body our clothes. So I'm not saying that in any way where there's any shame around how my body looks. I grew life, and even if I didn't, it's okay for my body to stretch throughout my life. But I just am figuring out how to dress that makes me feel confident. And I'm also a stay-at-home mom with two little, so I often spend my days just in pajamas. And I really want to break that habit because it puts me in this mode of not feeling productive and not feeling like I'm doing anything. But I am raising amazing little people that I want to show up for in my best mindset. So I really want to get out of that habit. It's just tricky to wear my hand knits right now because I do get spit up on all day long. So I think that's another reason I am not wearing many knits right now. It's also the hottest summer I've experienced in years because Australian summers were just not as humid as it is where I'm living right now in America. It has been about 90 degrees every day of the past few weeks, if not month. So most days I'm just wearing t-shirts until they get spit up on and then changing into a new t-shirt. Editing Morgan here to say that I'm just fully embracing my ogre aesthetic in my spit up shirts, and that is okay. But anyways, that is what I'm wearing. I really enjoyed this knit and I highly recommend Sari Nordlund's patterns because they are very well written and easy to follow in my opinion. Something I found really helpful when learning to knit lace and follow lace knitting charts was Kutova Kika's video tutorials. She has video tutorials for just about all of her knitting patterns that require certain techniques and skills. So I highly recommend those if you are undertaking a new technique when it comes to knitting. If you can see here, Matilda's favorite make I have is her little, it's actually Arthur's. It was Arthur's when he was a baby. I crocheted it before I even learned how to knit. It is a little teddy bear lovey. I will put a photo of it on the screen. I will also share what the pattern is. I'm pretty sure it was a free one because before I started knitting, I did not pay for patterns. I was like, I'm not gonna spend money on a digital anything. Now I'm very much happy to support the designers. Moving on into finished objects. I have one, like I said, and it is my Beatrix cardigan baby. Really junior, it's not a baby size at all. But I followed the adult pattern. She does not have a kid's version of this knit. And I knit it in Drops Baby Merino, which is a sport or fingering weight yarn, depending on what needle you knit it with. This is knit in the color Peanut, and I knit it on a 3.25 millimeter needle and ended up with these measurements that I will put on the screen, which will fit, I think, a 3 to 4 year old. And I will probably let her wear it much younger. And just roll the sleeves up because I'm so excited about it. I got these adorable little pearl buttons on Amazon, so I will try to add them to my storefront so you can grab them if you are looking for the same kind. But it works perfectly for these little button loops that you have to work for the Beatrix pattern. She does include a tutorial for that, so it was really easy to follow and figure out. The Beatrix cardigan is a saddle shoulder construction that has a braid that goes all the way down the arm and is an all over textured pattern that is really just a 2-row repeat. It's really easy to knit. The trickiest part was the German short rows and working that into the pattern, but even that ended up working out really nicely. And I have just one note on that on my Ravelry if you are following this pattern and having a hard time with that. And there's also a beautiful cable design that trails down the button band that is so beautiful. I think this is, along with my son's Narnia jumper, one of the most special things I've knit for my kids. I absolutely adore it. I can't wait to see her wear it when she gets bigger. And I'm going to be knitting my version of this really soon, which I have like a yellowy green color for. That has been in my stash for a long time, and I just can't wait to cast that one on. I've just been prioritizing so many other projects, and I'm really excited about all my children's knits right now. This project did grow a couple inches after blocking, or if you are knitting with Drops Baby Merino, I highly suggest blocking your gauge swatch, but either way, I was pretty flexible with how this sizing ended up with this. My goal was to just follow the pattern with the smallest size and size down the needles and yarn and see what children's size I get, and it worked out beautifully, if I do say so myself. I'm so proud of this, and I'm just now realizing apparently there's one end I did not weave in or cut off. I think that's what it is. I didn't cut it off after weaving it in. I also have some cute little Morgan Unraveled cloth tags that I got to sew into my knits, and I haven't been doing it yet. I really need to pull out my machine from storage and put those on, especially for my son who is going to be starting school, because I do not want any of his hand knits to not come home. It's probably not even a good idea to send him to school in them, but I've told him, make sure if you take your jacket off, you put it in your backpack. And he loves his knits, so I don't think he'll let anything happen to them. And I've definitely said it before, but I really enjoy knitting these children's knits by just taking an adult size pattern and sizing down the needles and yarn. It is obviously a lot of work for a child's knit that they do grow out of within a few seasons. So some people would say it's not worth it, but I enjoy the process. And if you want to do a heavier weight child's knit, you obviously can buy the patterns. Petiteknit has a ton of patterns that are for children's knits, but I just try to use my pattern library for my children's knits as much as I can and get double purpose out of them and have more matching mini knits. Highly, highly suggest this pattern, and I will be knitting it again for myself. And it's just such a beautiful, timeless knit. Now let's talk about works in progress. I obviously will not be able to pull them all out because I am holding a sleeping baby, but I definitely want to update you on what I have been working on and what is occupying my needles. I am having so much fun with so many of my knits, and then there's one that I'm not having very much fun with, but I need to frog it a little bit and fix some things because I lost yarn chicken. The first project I want to talk about is my most recent cast on because it is my absolute hyperfixation knit right now. I started the Holger cardigan pattern by Petiteknit. I'm also kind of knitting the Olga pattern because I also bought that one to be able to knit for myself. I definitely could have probably just bought one of them and modified the sizing. I had already gotten the holger a while back to knit for my son and really like the way the sleeves of the Olga look. So I am doing the sleeves and the bottom hem according to the Olga pattern, but the stitch counts and everything is from the holger cardigan that is a junior size. I am calling this my ogre holger because it's so fun to say, and it is very shrekky. I am knitting the holger cardigan in a brown and green color combination from my stash in a cotton yarn. My favorite yarn to knit with for my kids is cotton because it's never itchy, it's really easy to care for, and it's really breathable. I like to knit things for my kids pretty oversized so that they can grow into it and just roll things up if they are a little too big, rather than growing out of them super quickly. I chose these colors because we are absolutely obsessed with Shrek in this house, and it was really giving Shrek vibes. I've wanted to knit this for him for so long, and I'm so glad I finally cast it on. I was not expecting, I know everybody talks about how addictive stripes are to knit. This is honestly my first time actually knitting proper stripes. I've knit the Norma sweater, but I feel like that one is bordering on being color work just because you transition into the stripes by doing a color work row, so it doesn't feel like regular stripes. But with this cardigan, I am so excited to get to the next stripe, and I know I'm only this many stripes away from finishing whatever section I'm on, so it's very motivating and quick to knit. Obviously, it's a child size garment, and I'm knitting it with a worsted weight. It's supposed to be a DK. I am knitting slightly off gauge. I forgot to mention that in the sizing. I am knitting the size 5 to 6, but I will note that the stitch counts are the exact same for the size 4 to 5 and 5 to 6. I'm just following the length suggestions for the 5 to 6. My son is 4 years old and he currently wears size 6 clothes. And what I do often when I'm knitting for either my child or my husband or even myself is I'll lay out a shirt or a sweater that fits them well and measure that so that I know what lengths and what size to follow, because sizes are really just suggestions and often I'm knitting off gauge. And I think the best way to end up with a size that's going to actually fit your child or yourself is to go based off of a garment that fits you in a way you want this garment to fit. And this holger jacket I started last Sunday. It is now Saturday. I have finished the body of it completely. I've done the button bands and am binding off the collar as we speak. And all I have left now is the sleeves. My son is really excited about it. I will say I did bind off the body a little too short because when after measuring his shirt that I wanted to base the size off of, I tried it on his body and I was like, this is going to be too long for him. But most of his shirts are a little too long for him. And when I bound it off, I had him try it on again, and his shirt was hanging down past it because I had put it on his body and been like, oh, I don't want it to be that long. But I also don't want his shirts hanging out the bottom of his jacket. So I did cut off the bind off on the body and end up adding in the stripes back and reknitting the hem and binding off again, and it is the perfect length now. I'm very happy with it. I am knitting this on a 4.5 millimeter needle because like I said, I'm knitting this with worsted weight, not DK yarn, so I didn't want it to be too dense of a fabric. I really wanted it to be a breathable cardigan for him that he can wear in the transition seasons like spring and fall. I am doing the button band and the collar in the brown color, so I did end up having to, after also having to cut off the bind off of the body, having to go back to Hobby Lobby and grab another skein of this yarn just so that I didn't run out. But I'm just so glad to be working through some yarn in my stash right now. I really want to be knitting from what I have before we have to move again. I've shared prior, but we moved back from Australia and are staying with some family for a little while, and obviously we have a baby, so we're just not focusing on getting moved right now. But when we do, it's probably going to be quite a big move. We're not staying in this region we're currently in, so it's going to be a big move, and I want to make sure that I am paring down how many bins my yarn takes up before the move. I have 4 large bins and full of yarn, and I'd really like to get it down to 3 so that one of those bins can hold all of my sweaters. I think stash is a really personal thing because it's something that a lot of people have a lot of guilt over, how much yarn they have. And then there's also the privilege conversation we should have that, like, it is in this economy such a privilege to have access to yarn in your home and have a few years worth of knitting available to you. And my goal isn't to work through my yarn because I feel guilty that I have too much. It's to work it down because I've acquired this yarn and it's taking up space in my limited space right now. And I'd like to focus on using that before I move so that when I get wherever we're going, I can go to fun yarn festivals and really be a part of the yarn community, shop the local yarn shops, and not feel guilty then because I'm not using what I have. I'll have space to bring in new and use new things. I'm absolutely obsessed with this color combo and I'm having so much fun knitting this up. Like I said, I've only been working on it for a week and I'm nearly done. So I am planning what yarns in my stash I could use to make one for myself. I'm really thinking it would be fun to knit it in my cotton yarn I got from Bendigo Woolen Mills back room. It was one of their seconds bin yarns that I literally got 400 grams of it for $10 total US. That's Australian dollars, and it's in a dusty pink color, so I'll figure out what I want to hold it with, but I think it would be pretty with one of my cotton browns I have in my stash, and that would also pair well with my son's. It would be a really cute match. So that is the Holger cardigan, my ogre holger, and let's move on into the next work in progress, which is the erantis dress. If you've been following along, you know I knit my daughter the erantis romper for her newborn photos, her birth announcement photos, and they were so beautiful. She didn't get to wear it a whole lot because it is summer and it's a merino wool, and she also is growing so fast, and I expected that, but I'm glad I got those special photos. And we also cloth diaper, so rompers just aren't reasonable to knit. I did get a recommendation on my one of my videos to knit the body of rompers longer since I cloth diaper, and I think that that's such a good idea. So if I do decide to make any more rompers, I will do that. But I think that with this dress, I'm really liking the idea of putting her cloth diapers on and then just having dresses over it as she starts to crawl around and everything, obviously in the house. It'll be easier to change her diaper, but also it looks almost like bloomers under there. She will be 3 months next week and she is already wearing size 6 to 9. So I went ahead and sized up for the erantis dress to a size 2 so that when she is starting to crawl and wiggle around, it can still fit her, because I think that this dress will be just so darling. I am knitting this one in Drops Baby Merino in the color beige number 17. It's actually knitting up a lot faster than I thought it would though. I just had so much fun working on this one as well. I worked on this one in the week before casting on my son's holger, and I almost completely finished it in a week, and then I put it down to be like my stockinette project because I was enjoying the body that I wanted to savor it. I don't know why I do that sometimes. When I'm working on the body of a project, I'll like put it down and be like, this is easy, mindless knitting now, so I need to cast on something that takes brain power, and I'll put this away for when I'm like watching TV or something instead of just finishing my projects. What I did for this one was I did the provisional cast on around barber cord instead of around waist yarn, and that was such a time saver and so convenient, and I'm really glad I learned that technique. So I actually also applied it once I was knitting down the yoke and got to the row where you're supposed to purl through the back loop so that you can later pick up for the lace. I actually on that row wrapped yarn around my barber cord to be able to pick up later or just slide onto my needles to do the lace chart, and that was so convenient. It definitely made that row take a long time, but it made the pickup for the lace just infinitely easier. And the stitch count worked out perfectly, obviously, because I was doing it with each stitch instead of like messing up the stitch count and having to redo it for the pickup. However, once I was on the body, I did realize while I was meeting stitch gauge, I was not meeting row gauge. So I actually ended up altering my decreases for the sleeves and my increases for the body by 2 stitches, just doing them 2 rows faster than the pattern recommends. And that worked out proportionately as far as I can tell. But again, it's one of those things where they'll wear it when they fit it. I'm not worried about if it is a specific size for her right now because it's not going to fit her right now. Because I have 200 grams of this yarn, when I was working the body and ran out of a ball, I decided to put the body on hold, work up the sleeves, do the lace ruffle, as well as the I-cord neck, which I always use my I-cord tool that I have on my Amazon storefront. I highly recommend it. Is so fun. It makes I-cord, like, it makes me look forward to having to do I-cord on my pieces, which I used to kind of not love doing. And so I did all of that before going back to the body. Now I'm just working on the body, but I may save myself like 20 grams of this yarn to make a matching bonnet. I think that will be so cute. And then for my cardi cocoon by Ventzel that I am knitting in Drops Brushed Alpaca Silk in the color Wheatfield and Drops Alpaca in the color Olive. I'm holding those together, which makes a slightly denser fabric than the pattern recommends, but I am knitting on gauge and I'm really happy with how it is coming along. I am knitting it on the recommended 5mm needles. It is quite intensive on the hands, and that is why I have not been working on it as much, but I do still plan to get it finished by my birthday in September, so that I can wear it up in Acadia, which I'm going to a friend's wedding up there. So I want to make sure I have it done by then, and it will feel like a little birthday present to myself. I have made it to the body of it, and it's just working back and forth. I will definitely do the sleeves soon, and then just finish the cardigan, make it as long as I can until I start to run out of yarn, and then I will bind it off. Not much to say about that one as of right now, but I can't wait till it is a finished object to show you. I haven't made any progress on my Ingrid sweater because I've been working on all these other things, but the last work in progress I do want to share with you that I didn't have much to say about last time is my twist loop sweater by Other Loops. I am knitting this one in my Bendigo Woolen Mills 8-ply in a lake green color. I found this one also in the back room of the shop at their mill, and I love this yarn so much, and I was loving this project so much, but I pulled it back out and I was like, I'm gonna finally finish this. I had this burst of like finish my whips energy. So I pulled it out and I'd been chugging away on it. I committed to that split hem. I did the front panel. I'd already done the back, and I picked up for a sleeve and I churned that sleeve out in a day. And then I went to find the next ball of wool, and there was no more ball of wool. I had just used the last of my wool. I thought there was a whole other 200 gram ball. I don't know what was going on. And I'm still trying to figure out where all the wool went, because I've got a body that's finished. I've got a sleeve, but I don't have a collar, and I'm missing a sleeve, and there's 600 grams right there. So I think I knit a size too large. And I think that when I measured my gauge swatch, I don't think I stretched it enough. So I think I'm knitting more off gauge than I realized. And so I probably should have sized down more. I am going to rip out the split hem, and I'll have to finish the body according to pattern. I already ripped the sleeve out because I knit the sleeve way too long. I'll have to show you, but I actually didn't realize I accidentally did a whole other cable repeat on the sleeve. I really don't know what was going on. I'm postpartum, okay? You can't judge me, but everything is going wrong with this pattern right now, and I'm so disappointed because when I started it, it felt so seamless and meant to be. Like this yarn was just waiting to become this sweater, and it's not feeling like that right now. But I've put that project away in my closet, and I'm honestly dreading pulling it out to film the B-roll to show you my mistakes. But hopefully when I pull it out, it gives me the motivation I need to put in the lifelines in the cable rows, which is going to be so difficult, and get it back on my needles so that I can finish that knit, because I want it to become a finished garment and I'd really like to wear it this fall and winter. So hopefully I do that. But if I don't, I'm going to give myself grace, because sometimes you just need to put the knits away when you're needing some space from them until you come back to them again. So if I need to put that one, I'm looking at my Notion board, if I need to move that one into hibernated, I can do that. I think that is all of the projects I have to share with you today. Please let me know what you are working on while watching, or what project has been bringing you joy lately, what has been helping you unravel. Thank you so much for spending your relaxing time with me, your knitting time with me. And I'm so glad that we could catch up on what I've been working on lately. I've been feeling really good about my knitting besides the twist loop sweater. I've been having so much fun with all of the things I'm working on, and I sneak in my knitting anywhere I can. Obviously, I've got my hands full with two littles, and my son is home for the summer. But once he starts back to school, I think me and Tilly will have a lot more knitting and relaxing time. But we are enjoying spending the time with Bubba while he is home. I hope you all are staying cool this summer. And if you are in the Southern Hemisphere, first of all, I miss you guys so much. I miss Australia. I think we think and talk about it every single day. I hope you guys are staying cozy and warm with your knits down there. And thank you so much for being here wherever you are in the world and spending your time with me. Stay cozy, and I will see you next time.